Good morning and welcome. It's Good Morning Anambra Friday episode. Today is the 14th day of October 2022, and we thank God we are alive to see this day. Welcome to the press review. You're welcome to the press review. My name is Nonya Ngokoye. All right, quickly on the press review this morning, we have been joined by a guest, Mr. Kingsley Ugo. Welcome and good to have you in the studio.
Thank you. Thank you, Indian Anambra. Thank you, Nigerians. Thank God it's Friday.
All right, we begin with looking at stories making the headlines on ABS website. Presidential Award, Soludo Lot's Anambra teachers. Mrs. Soludo. Anambra State Government repeats warning against human trafficking, vows to deal with perpetrators. A flood. Mrs. Soludo seeks protection of children, pregnant, nursing mothers in holding centers. An appeal court discharges acquits IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. All right, Kingsley, we have a lot of stories there. I think four or five Anambra teachers, grabbed the award this time around, the annual presidential award.
Yeah. First of all, let me commend the spirit of appreciation on the part of the federal government, and then commend Anambra indigents, for distinguishing themselves, in many areas, in many spheres of life, because it is due to these peculiar qualities in them that have actually, helped in identifying them for giving them such honors, bringing it down to teachers in Anambra State, that actually, got, a kind of honor. I think it is worth it, because Anambra has maintained a very good record, within, the time. So it is right, to appreciate those who have actually played part in making Anambra, a reference point, for quality education. And I think when you inculcate, the part of a reward in any system is a morale booster, for others. So I want to say kudos, to all those involved in the process.
And at the same time, it spurs the teachers to work harder.
Of course.
All right, let's move on to the papers for the day.
We're starting with the Daily Sun. And the front page there, the headlines on the front page says, Appeal Court discharges and acquits Nnamdi Kanu. That is saying the writer there says, extradition, detention unlawful. IPOB jubilates, says it will mark end of sit at home. And also we also have at the top right end of the paper, obedient movement like NSAS driven by desire for better Nigeria. That is coming from Cardinal Okige. And then we also have there 3 dead resident displays as flood overruns Bayelsa community. And we also have the CP orders full investigation into 65-year-old man locked up for 20 years in Kaduna. That is on page 4 of the Daily Sun. Also, we have those playing same-faith candidacy backing North's retention of power, hypocrites. That is coming from Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State. And another story we have there, government moves to revitalize Southeast economy. Government moves to revitalize Southeast economy. Lastly, autumn, there's FG to buy AK-47 for Benue State security outfits. Otom dares FG, federal government, to buy AK-47 for Benue State security outfit. And let us just touch a little bit on what the front page of the Punch is saying. World Bank, IMF to access Nigeria's debt sustainability. That is coming on the Punch on page 19. PDP, whose aggrieved party members, BOT delays report. PDP, whose aggrieved party members, BOT delays report. Same on the Punch, we have on the strike, on the issue of the strike. Parents, students hopeful of ASU leaders meet. Parents, students hopeful of ASU leaders meet. And we have Sanwo-Olu gets FG approval for $2.5 billion Badagry seaport. Sanwo-Olu gets federal government approval for 2.5 billion Badagry seaport. And on the front page, we have jubilation in sight, Southeast. We've already read that based on the court's judgment of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. We have 126 stranded Nigerians returned from Libya. 126 stranded Nigerians returned from Libya. Lagos probes nurses for
filming XBB Niger. Filming.
Okay, for filming XBB Niger stars last moments. Ogun man kills wife over school fees, burns corpse with iron. Ogun man kills wife over school fees, burns corpse with iron. Osinachi thought her abusive husband would change, and that is coming from the neighbor on the Punch newspaper. That is what we have for you this morning. Kingsley, which of these stories would you like to delve into?
I think we've got interesting stories, today, and as we've been having, thank God, we're not having security stories, today, So, sure. So let's take it, from the top, Appeal Court discharges acquits Nnamdi Kanu. So, and if you see what other papers, the way they caption their headlines, you find jubilation in Southeast, So I think that captures, the situation, because it's a good development, that we are finding at least solution to our some of our problems, So over time now, we know that it has been an issue, especially as it affects Southeast, and the entire region, has almost been grounded, for over 2 years now, since this issue of agitation, took a high point in Southeast. Then the turn, let me say the cataclysm, was the detention of Nnamdi Kanu, I think in April, last year, 2021 or thereabout, his rendition, from Kenya. So, if at this point the judicial system sees it expedient, to actually follow the rule of law, to interpret the law the way it should, and then at the end of the day, the young man has been discharged, from the charges, leveled against him, However, I'm coming. However, I think there are some misleading lines in some of the headlines we're having, because from what the spokesperson to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, which says that Kanu was discharged but not acquitted. So I think on that point we should, be somewhat be guided and be
hold
properly.
on a bit, and allow the story to land.
Yes, to simmer down.
And the court says that IPOB leaders' abduction was unlawful, and these were part of the reason why the court discharged him on the issue of treason. That is, abduction in Kenya was unlawful.
Yes. His rendition, his rendition, specifically,
unlawful, you understand? Yeah. And they said we will present judgment copy to DSS for Kanu to go home. You understand?
Yes.
So I don't know if it's hurrah at this time to say, but let's just wait and see what they produce.
No, the fact is that first thing first, I think we now have a leeway, you know, because for discharging him is a step forward.
You can give some sigh of relief at the moment,
comes thereafter, you know. But we will equally advise that yes, let's not over jubilate. Okay. Let's see things the way they pan out, and I want to believe that the Nigerian legal system, you know, should actually show up their image by doing the proper thing. And then the government itself should also respect the law. We do not know what may be the next step. But remember, we have the Supreme Court, and you don't know what they are preparing. But, whatever that is, I think Kano's legal team should be prepared for.
All right, let's keep our fingers crossed and watch the drama as it unfolds. All right, we move on now to the Nigerian Tribune. That's the next paper we are looking at. We take the two at a time. The Nigerian Tribune and This Day newspaper. On the Nigerian Tribune, we have IPOB, Ohaneze family upbeat as appeal court frees Kano. We tried as their court faults extradition process, quashes terrorism charges, says trial court lacked jurisdiction. We are happy IPOB Ndibo can now sleep with their two eyes closed. Ohaneze, Kano discharged, not acquitted. Legal options will be exploited. All right. We're still on the Nigerian Tribune. Labour Party removes NLC TUC president from campaign council. PDP has not suspended its presidential campaign. Tambuwal, Wike blames a party crisis on rent seekers. Osun Speaker, others in hospital as vehicle runs into convoy. And still in the front of the paper, the pictures there, these are flooded market in Yenegua, Bayelsa State on Thursday. Shut down Obajana factory within 48 hours. Bello tells Dangote management. Others release of impounded trucks. Unilag UIC, top Nigerian universities in world ranking. Autumn gives federal government 1 month to approve AK-47 license for state security outfits. Federal government to distribute 12,000 metric tons of grains nationwide to cushion effect of flood disaster. Now, on Makinde, Oyo PDP received thousands of defectors from APC, ADC, ZLP, and AD. And on This Day newspaper, we can see again, Tinubu APC Governors National Working Committee meeting ends in stalemate. To think that's not the one we're supposed to take. Let's move on to the Nation newspaper. Moteko Core, others can't tackle banditry, says El-Rufai. ASU in all-night meeting over a strike. South-South commissions Okowa Dere to pacify Wike. Sanwo-Olu signs MOU with Del York in Fame City. Court acquits ex-governor Turaki of 8.3 billion naira fraud, and so many other stories. Okay, let's first of all look at the stories on the Nigerian Tribune. I don't know. Which one are you looking at?
I
think story about Autumn will be interesting.
That's exactly where I'm going. You know, because
it's in both papers anyway.
Yes. So you'll find out that why I pick particular interest in Autumn's story is that, yes, we talked about insecurity just a while ago, and it's like we've already dovetailed into that. So it has been an issue, you know, coming from the southwest, Amotekun-controlled region of Nigeria, you know. So at that point in time, you know, there was this strong claims, you know, that the southwest security non-state actors, you know, per se, you know, they should be armed with AK-47, you know, because their counterparts in the north, you know, especially Katsina State, you know, that they are wielding an AK-47. So, and what I think we discussed this some time ago in one of the platforms, which I believe ABS is part of it, you know, that what is good for the goose is equally good for the gander. And then that was what the Ondo State governor, as at then, was actually emphasizing on, you know, that if you should allow security operatives in a local security operatives in Katsina State to go about with AK-47. So you don't have any moral standing, not to sanction that in Southwest and Southeast per se. So specifically, we are trying to say here that yes, what if the law should apply to Mr. A, let it apply to Mr. B. Now, Atom has now come up, to claim that
they
security
should
operatives
sign certificate for them.
Yes,
approve their certificate.
He is demanding approval, for security outfits in their own region to be allowed the use of sophisticated weapons. Well, I think the question there is, how much trust do we have on these untrained security personnel to handle sophisticated weapons? Yes, because because of the exigencies of the time, we might allow a lot of things to go. Advocating for use of such high caliber weapons by people who are not trained for that.
Don't you think the governor requesting for the certificate at this time, he can't request for certificate and give weapons to people that are not amateur to handle the weapons?
Obviously, like you rightly say, the outfits, they are already there, but all they need is the arms to go in and combat the terrorists that have been ravaging their farmlands. Like you rightly said, Kingsley, the question there is that how do we know the right people to give these arms to? Because sophisticated weapons is not something that every person can handle. You understand? What trainings, both psychological and physical military training, have they undergone in order for them to have this kind of weapons? You understand?
I think this can be a very big topic for discussion, in the media. Let the governor come and talk to people on how he intends to go about it. All right, let's move on now. Look at the other papers we have at hand.
Yeah, the Guardian, the front page of the Guardian, IPOB celebrates massive jubilate as court quashes charges against Kanu. That's coming on the front page of the Guardian. And also we have there, the front page, you see kids there. Fresh concern on state of basic education as out of school figure reaches 20 million. That's a serious cause for concern in this part of the world. And underneath it, we have doubt as Nigeria negotiate debt relief with World Bank, IMF, saying that's a tough one. And Wike's donation stirs controversy in Cross River. That's coming on the top left-hand side of your Guardian newspaper this morning. And consultation. Sanwo-Olu Del New York signs MOU to build Lagos Media Film City. That's coming from the Guardian. Sanwo-Olu Del New York signed MOU to build Lagos Media. That's coming from the Guardian. And also we have there, Chimamanda did not accept national honor, team confirms. Chimamanda did not accept national honor, that's the team saying. But on the rider of the front page of the paper, we have Kanu discharged and acquitted, FG to explore other options. Courts, FG's abduction, rendition of Kanu breached all local international laws. And we also have Kanu's freedom, positive steps towards Biafra restoration. That's coming from Masol. And Ohaneze Ndibo, FG should not appeal Kanu's victory. It's time for dialogue. And then on the next paper, we have the Daily Trust. Quickly, let's go on the front with banditry. Kaduna safer after military bombardment. That's coming from the governor, El-Rufai. We'll discuss that and know how true that is. FG Malls return to old charges as court discharges Kanu. BVAS will be game changer in 2023 elections. That's coming from Jega, who happens to be the former INEC chairperson. And Dangote's 650 million barrels per day refinery, 97% completed, says MDPRA. And on the rider, on the story of El-Rufai, the rider says military doing what we have been yearning for. Says Amin Amotekun, other local security outfits not the solution. That's coming from El-Rufai. Otom gives federal government 1 month deadline to approve AK-47 license. We've talked about that. Infant mortality rate high in Oyo, Ogun, Ekiti. NBS, UNICEF saying that Buhari approves 12,000 metric tons of grains for flood victims. And police rescues 67-year-old man locked up for 20 years in Kaduna. That's what we have for you on the Daily Trust newspaper. And lastly, we have the Independent. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think let's take on 2023 election, because it is what it is now and where we are. Yes, Beavers will be game changer in 2023 elections, Jega says.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to agree with him, that given perfect execution of the electoral process as outlined now, yes, we have confidence, we have hope, that Beavers will play a long part in ensuring that 2023 election, becomes credible, fair, as much as it could. So, yes, before now, our electoral process, has been losing credibility, because people believe, that the votes don't count. But this time around, because we are now relying on machine operations that will accredit you, that will ensure that, you qualify to vote and be voted, I think is a good thing if we must take it very, very seriously. Of course, the Electoral Act has prescribed that. So let it not be at that point in time, we begin to shift, the goalposts when the game is already in process. That is to say that let us not hear
It did not work.
generator did not, there was no generator here.
What's the possibility that the Beavers
We work perfectly.
polling units?
So
It's possible now. There's possibility for it to work.
Electricity is already a challenge in this part of the world, you understand? And you're needing something that is electronically activated.
driven. Well, let me
give you a credible election.
let me cut in there. You know that if you prepare yourself to excel, you are one step to succeeding. But if you fail to prepare yourself to succeed, you've already prepared yourself to fail. So INEC, as an independent electoral regulatory body, knows about all these challenges we have. They are well mobilized, to face these challenges. So they don't have any excuse. So if on that day the machines become functional, I think they should be responsible. And the problem we have in Nigeria is that we continue to do things, the way it's been done that has grounded us, and nobody takes responsibility.
All right, I think that's the saying of the governor, that when you begin to, or you continue to do the same thing the same way, you are expected to get the same results you're used to getting. Okay, we move on now to the Daily Independent newspaper. Let's see stories making their headlines on the Daily Independent. Ohaneze Afenifere, others hail ruling freeing Nnamdi Kanu. Ozokeme says appeal court judgment an act of God. IPOB supporters celebrate, mock federal government, thank the judiciary. Omahia in frenzy mood, youth troop out to the streets. A budget report shows 33 states depend on FARC for 50% of revenue. Nigeria yet to approach World Bank IMF for debt restructuring. Dangote's 650,000 BPD refinery, 97% completed, says regulator. PDP has not suspended presidential campaign. That's coming from Tambuwal. 2 months after, 5 airlines said to get 50% trapped funds, with riders there, debt climbed to $600 million. Foreign airlines shut out travel agencies from platforms. Now we have Sanwo-Olu signs MOU with Del York to build media film city in Lagos. Wike laments frustration of peace talks by PDP stalwarts, vows not to change his stance on Iyocha Ayu. Now, Autumn gives federal government, okay, we've seen that story before now. All right, a lot of stories here. Let's look at the issue of Nigeria. Okay, I don't know, Kingsley, which one are you attracted to look at? The 2 months after?
I think we have interesting stories there everywhere, you know, but let's pick on the Nigerian debt issue.
Okay.
Because before now, I think specifically during the time of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Nigeria exited debt burden through, you know, the good and the enterprising, you know, contributions of our financial experts, and credit should be given to current IMF director Okonjo-Iweala, you know, because World Bank rather, because her input actually yielded, you know, to Paris debt pardon, if you call it that way, you know. So that relief, you know, that relief came to Nigeria at that point in time. So for us now, you know, to be talking about running into trillion debts as we speak now, you know, it's appalling, you know. We don't know how we got to this point.
And then, is it that they are waiting for Nigeria to approach the World Bank for debt restructuring, you know, to know how to go about the repayment or maybe cancellation? As I learned that the other day our president was at the United Nations and they pleaded for the debt cancellation. I don't know.
Well, for all we know, as it is, I am not a financial expert, you know, but from available information, the World Bank has warned Nigeria, going by the trend of borrowings, that our economy is already becoming unsustainable. So at that point in time, there is danger already. The signal there is already indicating the red. So now how do we come out of this? You know, it requires now a kind of a renegotiation or finding a way out. But meanwhile, the World Bank is actually fashioning a way to aid Africa in clearing up, you know, their debts so that they can be in control of their economy. So at this point, now Nigeria maybe is trying to leverage this opportunity to reduce their own debt burden. But this is what we created, you know, by ourselves. Having gotten debt relief not quite long, we've run ourselves into another debt regime again.
All right, we keep our fingers crossed and we continue to pray that Nigeria will come to a level of being a nation, a production nation, and no longer consumption nation. And that's the much we can take on the press review for this morning because of our time. We thank you so much for being there, and we thank you so much, Kingsley, for your patience, your sacrifices this morning, being here in the studio despite the rains. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anambra. Thank you, everybody.
All right, we have more coming up on Good Morning Anambra Show.